In the early 1970s, the UFO News Clipping Service captured a wave of Bigfoot sightings across the U.S., from Pacific Northwest tracks to Iowa encounters. These articles from 1973 to 1981 reflect the era's curiosity over Bigfoot. Encounter 1. A life-changing UFO encounter in Pasigoula by Joe Rogers, Jackson Daily News. Staff writer, October 11, 1973. Calvin Parker's life hasn't been the same since he told the world that creatures from another planet took him aboard their spaceship. A quiet fellow by nature, he wasn't ready for the attention his story brought. Nobody could hear enough. He didn't mind talking to serious people, those who wanted to know more about what happened, but he couldn't handle the crackpots, the ones who threatened to kill him. "You run into a few of everything," he said, reflecting on the experience. Things soon became so hectic that he decided to disappear. Now, 7 years later, his own mother still isn't sure exactly where he lives. But the Jackson Daily News reached him for a telephone interview from Denver. "I've been staying out of sight. I had to work and make a living. People just would not leave me alone," Parker said. This is his story. On October 11, 1973, Parker and his friend Charles Hickson were fishing, without much luck, near an old shipyard on the Pasigoula River. They heard a zipping noise, turned around, and saw a spaceship hovering about a foot off the ground, 40 feet away. Three creatures, each 5 feet tall with pointed ears, sharp noses, and crab-like hands, emerged and approached them. The creatures took a dumbfounded Hickson and a fainting Parker inside the ship, where they were examined with an optical device. Later, they were returned to the pier, and the spaceship zipped away. The two debated whether to tell anyone, but finally called the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. Instant fame followed when the local paper published their story. "We had more phone calls, more sales on the racks, more interest than any time since I've been here," said Gary Holland, editor of the paper. Calls for more information poured in from around the world, and staffers took turns handling them. "Journalistically, I overplayed it, but it sure did sell papers," Holland admitted. People along the coast began reporting sightings. Ordinary objects like weather balloons and mosquito control trucks were mistaken for alien spacecraft. When a woman claiming contact with UFOs predicted a landing, over 1,000 cars paraded to the site on the Mississippi-Alabama border. A New Orleans man was seriously injured when he walked into a police car while scanning the skies for UFOs. A Biloxi cab driver, late returning from work, initially claimed he was detained by spacemen but later admitted he was at a bar. Ocean Springs aldermen considered an ordinance banning landings, but the mayor vetoed it, welcoming visitors from deep space. Through it all, Hickson and Parker never changed their story, even under hypnosis. They passed lie detector tests. "There was definitely something here that was not terrestrial," said one scientist. Hickson, 48, embraced the media and appeared at UFO conferences. But Parker, only 18 at the time, withdrew to clear his mind. "It's real hard to reason out," he said. He drifted, working odd jobs and seeking others with close encounters. Even in hiding, people recognized him in Denver, where he now lives and works on offshore oil rigs out of Florida. Slowly, Parker came to terms with the experience. He now talks freely and is considering an invitation to speak to a high school group, something he wouldn't have contemplated before. "During the last 4 months, I think I've grown up," he said, crediting much of his progress to his wife of 1 year. He seldom sees Hickson, but sometimes feels he's in mental contact with the creatures. "There's no doubt in my mind. I was picked up and examined by some humanoids, or whatever you want to call them," he said. Encounter 2. Sasquatch tracks found near Slater Road by Linda Hosek, Herald staff writer, Bellingham, WA, December 10, 1980. Tracks from an animal believed to be a Sasquatch were spotted Sunday and Monday in the woods south of Slater Road, said John Beckjord, director of Project Bigfoot, a Seattle-based volunteer wildlife organization, on Tuesday. Between 200 and 300 barefoot tracks meandered in arches, circles, and zigzags, disappearing up a hill north of the Lummi Indian Reservation near Ferndale. "There was no particular direction," Beckjord said. "It appeared to be looking for food." "The creature apparently slept in the snow under salmonberry bushes," he added. Its tracks, about 11 inches long, revealed a narrow heel but were broad at the ball of the foot. Beckjord estimated its weight at about 230 pounds by comparing the compression of his tracks with the animal's. Based on the weight and track size, he believes it was a juvenile Sasquatch. Beckjord has gathered about 150 sightings of possible Sasquatches, gorilla-like primates not recognized by scientists. They are believed to be about 7 feet tall and weigh around 200 pounds. The last sighting before the Slater Road tracks was reported at 9 a.m. on December 1st, when a man saw a Sasquatch on Lummi Shore Drive near Beach Road. Beckyard said he saw Sasquatches twice about 5 years ago on the Lummi Reservation, one near a garbage dump and another crossing a road. Sasquatch sightings date back hundreds of years, he noted. David Thompson reported a Sasquatch sighting in 1811 in British Columbia, and such sightings are part of Indian oral history for as far back as they can remember, Beckyard said. The Salish Indians along the Fraser River named the upright animal Sasquatch, while the Lummi Indians call it Tisialco. Scientists and anthropologists say the evidence is not yet firm enough to establish Sasquatch as a species, requiring a body for confirmation. There are many stories about people finding a body, but none have been brought to scientists, Beckyard said. Project Bigfoot, formerly Project Grendel, started in 1975 and includes about 85 members across the United States, with 20 scientists and anthropologists participating. We're trying for physical evidence, blood, hair, teeth, Beckyard said. He encourages others to look for tracks and report them to Project Bigfoot. A good way is to look for tracks that go up into the woods from the road where you wouldn't expect a person to go, he advised, noting that the distance between tracks should be unusually long. Sasquatches may travel from woods to water at night to gather mussels, Beckyard said. He emphasized that the unconfirmed primate is not dangerous and advised against shooting at one, as it might be an impersonator in a gorilla suit. Encounter 3. Debunking the Bigfoot Myth by Jay Scriba, Journal staff writer. Milwaukee, WI. January 16, 1981. What's new with Bigfoot after more than 20 years? Thousands of alleged sightings, footprints, and a starring film role. Is there an American abominable snowman, or is it just an abominable snow job, as one writer quips? True believers cite impressive support. Investigator John Napier, former top primatologist at the Smithsonian Institution, guesses there is an unknown bipedal primate in the Pacific Northwest's misty rainforests. Nature writer Peter Matheson says his friend George Schaller, a celebrated animal behaviorist, believes an animal unknown to science exists in the Himalayan uplands. Until recently, there was a Bigfoot information center in Oregon and a monthly newsletter, Bigfoot News. Michigan even had a Michigan Bigfoot Information Center with file cabinets of data and a shrine-like display of Bigfoot dung in a glass case. Kenneth Wiley, a trained historian, anthropologist, woodsman, and amateur naturalist, explores the phenomenon in his book, Bigfoot, A Personal Inquiry into a Phenomenon. Viking Press. He notes it's hard to deny sightings by hundreds of sober, sensible people. A classic tale from the 1960s involves two women driving at night near Charlevoix, Michigan. Wiley relates, suddenly a large monster-like figure emerges rapidly from the brush, plunging into the headlights' glare. The driver slows to avoid a crash. Her companion screams. The thing stands upright like a man, but too large and massive to be human. Its body is dark, its face flat without a snout, like a man or ape but not human. The women glide past in awed disbelief, hesitant to share their story publicly for years. In 1976, 3 young National Guardsmen in the same region claimed a huge creature attacked their personnel carrier, banging on its sides and rocking it. A retired Michigan state trooper and his family reported being terrorized by a screaming creature with a terrible stench, leaving 18-inch footprints. A neighbor woman also reported the stench. In the Pacific Northwest, reports range from Bigfoot rapes to kidnappings. In the 1920s, a British Columbia logger claimed a Bigfoot seized him in his sleeping bag and held him prisoner for nearly a week. In 1971, a California family said a huge ape-like creature wrecked their camp and came close enough to be offered food, producing alleged tape recordings of its caterwauling. A British Columbian journalist claims evidence like hair, blood, and handprints. In 1959-69, an expedition used sanitary napkins to lure a presumed male Bigfoot. The 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, showing a hairy figure striding along a California river, is endorsed by some authorities. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service requires protection for any discovered Bigfoot, and the University of British Columbia held a Bigfoot conference in 1978, yet Wiley's investigation cast doubt. He initially hoped Bigfoot was real but remained scientific. A Chinese expedition concluded Yeti hunters chase shadows. Sir Edmund Hillary's expedition found Yeti footprints were melted animal tracks. A supposed Yeti scalp was fake, a hand was largely human, and Yeti skins were Tibetan blue bear. Wiley deems the Patterson-Gimlin film a man in a baggy ape suit, showing a boot sole. The 1971 California tape was a hodgepodge of concocted noises. The Michigan incidents were hoaxes, and unidentified hair samples are inconclusive. An anthropologist at the British Columbia Conference called Bigfoot buffs a subculture. Wiley notes Bigfoot's absence in Northwest Indian legend before 1958, and its dismissal by locals as a joke. He argues it's impossible for primate monsters to survive without conspicuous evidence like dens or droppings. He questions the lack of young Bigfoot reports and the absence of hard evidence like carcasses or skeletons. Wiley suggests Bigfoot reflects an age-old belief in hairy humanoids, fulfilling a modern need for mystery. He speculates it may stem from a genetic memory of extinct humanoid relatives. Encounter 4, Bigfoot Sightings on Mount Shasta. By Emily Frank, Herald and News special writer. Klamath Falls, Oregon, November 1, 1981. Has Bigfoot been seen on Mount Shasta? Logger Virgil Larson claims he saw the legendary creature in September 1976 while employed by Columbia Helicopter Company logging on the mountain. Larson described a huge, bad-smelling creature with hair starting at its eyebrows and going straight back over its head. It wasn't a man, not even human, he said, noting it stunk like a half-rotten bear hide. The sighting occurred south of Cascade Gulch on the lower slopes. Some call Bigfoot a hoax, but Larson disagrees. Bigfoot sightings in Northern California and Siskiyou County are common. In August 1956, Mrs. J. Pomeray of Butte, Montana, saw what appeared to be a bear running across the highway north of Mount Shasta City, taking giant strides on 2 legs. In 1962, a Bakersfield, California, man reported an 8-foot-tall, dirty silver hair-covered creature with a flat face and human-like hands, seen within 75 feet. John Green's Sasquatch file recounts a Mount Shasta climber, unnamed, who fell off a bluff while deer hunting and was carried 2 miles to camp by a 9-foot, musty-smelling man-like creature. The man found 1.5-inch whitish hairs on his hunting coat. In the mid-1960s, Henry Kirchhoff of Woodland Hills, California, reported friends seeing Bigfoot tracks. In 1886, the Del Norte record described a 7-foot wild man near Happy Camp with a bulldog head, long hair, and a hairless body. The term Bigfoot emerged in the 1920s, initially for Northern California creatures, later spreading to Oregon and Washington. Elsewhere it's called Sasquatch, from Indian names like Sauce-Cottle, meaning wild man of the woods. The Hoopa tribe called him O-Man-Ah, or Oma, while Cascade tribes used Seatix. Happy Camp is known as Bigfoot country. In 1952, a man driving from Happy Camp to Orleans during a rainstorm saw a shaggy, blue-gray, human-like orangutan vanish behind a tree. After a skid, he saw a savage face in his rearview mirror. Removing a fallen sapling, he faced a creature with round, luminous eyes, short head hair, long eye teeth, and a leathery, nearly hairless chest. It circled him, playing a game, then clawed at his car window before dropping off. Bluff Creek, near Humboldt and Del Norte counties, is a hotspot. In August 1967, nearly 600 Bigfoot tracks were counted west of Bluff Creek. Ray Kerr and Leslie Brazil saw a hairy man-like figure on Bluff Creek Road. A road construction worker quit after seeing Bigfoot outside a shack, and others made casts of 15-inch tracks with double bumps at the ball of the foot. In 1955, Eureka newspaperman John Chamberlain found 15-inch double-bumped tracks on Mount Shasta at 11,500 feet, with a 50-inch stride and an estimated 450-pound weight. In May 1976, Cherie Darvell claimed abduction by a hairy, ape-like creature near Eureka. Pete Byrne of the Dalles has spent over $100,000 searching for Bigfoot, seeking protection for what he believes is a harmless, primitive man. Obviously, they are rare, Byrne says, hoping to secure an executive order to protect the species. Encounter 5, The Honey Island Swamp Monster, by Richard Adams, Sun staff writer circa 1980. What has 4 toes, eats no meat, is covered in hair, and runs through the swamp near the Pearl River with the speed of a deer? According to Perry Ford of Slidell, Louisiana, it's the monster of the Honey Island Swamp. Perry said his father, Harlan A. Ford, first saw a hairy creature in the swamp about 10 years ago and spent much of his life trying to identify it. Harlan died in April 1980. The legend resurfaced after a truck driver found large 4-toed footprints in a gravel pit near the western portion of the swamp, which runs along the Pearl River across the Mississippi state line into Hancock County, ending about a mile west of 607. A Pearl River County Sheriff's Department spokesman said the swamp's boundaries are unclear, but it just goes for a long ways. Authorities believe the recent footprints are a prank, but some who saw them note the left-right pattern was accurate, casting doubt on the hoax theory. When Perry heard the footprints measured 22 inches long and 5 1/4 to 6 inches wide with 4 toes, he hesitated before sharing that his father's footprints also had 4 toes. The tracks that Daddy and his partner from Houston found had 4 toes, too. The Smithsonian Institute checked them out and determined they were authentic, Ford said in a telephone interview from Slidell. It interested me when you said 4 toes. The tracks my daddy got had 3 main toes and 1 smaller side toe, but none came near measuring 22 inches. Ford said his father and a hunting partner from Houston saw the creature about 10 years ago while hunting. We had an old camp near the swamp for about 20 years before the government purchased the land for a wildlife refuge, he said. It was directly across from the camp that Daddy first saw the thing. It weighed, they figured, about 300 to 400 pounds and was about 6 feet tall. It was on all fours when they first saw it, but it stood on 2 feet and ran off with the speed of a deer. Ford noted about 18 sightings since in the Upper Honey Island swamp. The Smithsonian ruled out orangutans from a circus caravan crash near Old Highway 11 in the late 1960s and did not consider the tracks to be Bigfoots. Investigators determined the creature was vegetarian and hard of hearing. Encounter 6, a Bigfoot hunt in San Antonio Valley. By Tom Harris, Mercury News staff writer. San Jose, California, January 1st, 1981. It may have been the strangest expedition ever assembled for Bigfoot. The searchers included Fat Patty, a portly mountain man, Ringo, a gimpy-legged ex-motorcycle gang member, reporters, photographers, self-professed experts, and a skeptical scientist, Dr. Howard Shellhammer, a zoologist from San Jose State University. The tip came to the newspaper. Bigfoot was sighted near a stock-watering pond in the San Antonio Valley, 40 miles east of San Jose in the Diablo Range. A photographer with a 600mm telephoto lens joined the team, and they headed to the Junction Bar. Lois Keene shared a second-hand account. This big guy came in a week ago Saturday. His face was sweaty and flushed. You could see he was scared. The witness, barely speaking English, described 2 hairy animals, one over 6 feet tall, the other about 5 feet, near a creek bed while searching for lost cows. He raised his rifle but fled, fearing a mauling. Locals, including Ringo, investigated and found large footprints on a bulldozed hillside. Plaster casts were made despite a recent 2-inch rain. The story reached veteran researchers Archie Buckley and Warren Thompson of the Bay Area Group, who joined the expedition with Shellhammer, reporters, and gear like 4-wheel drives, binoculars, and walkie-talkies. At the site, Ringo pointed to 3-toed tracks. Shellhammer examined them and declared, "Cow." Reporters echoed, "Cow?" He confirmed, and the experts agreed. Further up, dung thought to be Bigfoot's was identified as coyote. Creekbed tracks were mountain lion. The bilingual reporter located the witness, Jose Rivera, a 58-year-old part-time rancher. Rivera recounted driving up a canyon road, hearing splashing, and seeing 2 hairy creatures in the pond, 125 feet away. He froze, considered shooting, then fled. A later inspection found no evidence due to rain and murky water. Rivera insisted, "I don't have any reason to lie. I'm only going back to get my animals out, but I don't want to see them again." At the Junction Bar, locals still discuss the sighting, hoping for Bigfoot dung for their oddity collection. Ranchers now look over their shoulders more often. Encounter 7. Yeti hunters set off for the Himalayas. Date not specified, circa 1980s. Salesman James Barry, 30, and Wayne Robinson, 29, from Leicestershire, England, have made their wills and are off to hunt the Yeti, the abominable snowman of the Himalayas. They believe they'll be the first to search the newly opened Nepal-Tibet border region where the Yeti is said to roam. To fund their 3-month expedition, they stop smoking, dating, and quit their $50,000 a year jobs, aiming to raise $10,000. Armed only with a camera, they don't plan to capture the Yeti. "We will probably sit and stare in amazement, then photograph it. It would be unfair to take the Yeti away from its environment," Wayne said. With little mountaineering experience, they know the risks. Wild animals like tigers, snakes, insects, mountain sickness, and rapid climate changes. "People think we're crackers, but they thought that about Christopher Columbus," Wayne added. They'll carry essentials like sleeping bags, thermal underwear, food, compasses, cameras, maps, and books. They believe the Yeti lives in lower forest regions, not high mountains, emerging at night for food and water, explaining snow footprints. "He probably lives in a hole or cave. Wayne said, noting the Yeti's reported bad smell from eating rats. Their strategy is to stay in one location, gather local knowledge, and let the Yeti come to them. They met Slavomir Rawicz, 72, who watched a Yeti for 2 hours in the Himalayas, as described in his book The Long Walk. Rawicz, who saw an 8-foot reddish-brown, hair-covered creature with a hairless face and gorilla-like arms, confirmed their beliefs. The Yeti has been reported worldwide as Sasquatch, Yowie, or the Abominable Snowman. You've got to get out and live. If we sat and worried about the pitfalls, we would never go, they said. Encounter 8. A teen's Bigfoot sighting. Near Ochaidon by M. Hall, Osceola, Colorado, and Tribune staff. Ochaidon, Iowa, August 26, 1976. Was it a figment of the imagination, a hoax, or the real thing? 13-year-old Dan Raduns of Ochaidon says it was real when he spotted a hairy creature resembling Bigfoot on Sunday morning, 3.5 miles south of Ochaidon. Dan, a passenger in the family car en route to their farm, saw the creature around 9:30 a.m. along the Ochaidon River. I was surprised and thought it was my imagination, he said. Shocked, he didn't tell his family in the car. I was scared to say anything, he admitted. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Howard Raduns, noticed a change in Dan's behavior and questioned him. He described a 6-foot-tall creature with black hair and an oval-shaped head, standing with its back to the road, arms raised as if sipping water. On Monday, Mrs. Raduns, Dan, and neighbor Dwight Glade investigated and found footprints along the riverbank, about 6 feet apart. The most defined print was 14 inches long, with a narrow heel and a 7-inch wide toe area, 3/4 to 1 inch deep. Sheriff Bob Rolfs and Deputy Bill Koopman examined the area, but declined to comment until more data is gathered. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these types of Bigfoot encounters from the past and present, please support my channel so I can continue creating this type of content.